You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Man, what an exhausting but disappointing game. Arkansas and Ole Miss. But, it had to be that way, right? Even though Arkansas was on the losing end 52-51, it had to be insanity. It had to be crazy. That's what this game is. That's what this series has always been about. Unfortunately for Arkansas in this case, though, they ended up on the losing side of things, falling short on a failed two-point conversion at the end of the game. And there are so many things to unpack from this. So we're going to try to make it work in the best way we can in this podcast. But holy crap. I knew that there would be some shenanigans, but I never expected to see what we saw. And basically, going into this game, I was really confident about Arkansas winning this game. And honestly, I don't believe that Ole Miss is better than Arkansas. I really don't. Now, people are going to come at me. I've had Ole Miss fans in my mentions all weekend, and they're probably going to say, well, you lost, so obviously we're better. Yeah, I get it. No, I totally get it. You won the game. You deserve to win the game. You did all you needed to do. I'm not taking that away from you. I am just saying, though, that I don't believe that because of that game and how it went down, that means Ole Miss is far and away a better team than Arkansas. I think that if these teams face each other 10 times, they may go 5-5 against each other. It is that equal. And I think that if this game had been played in Fayetteville, I think it goes another way. Obviously, there were a few things that went on in this game and a few mistakes, especially defensively, that ended up causing Arkansas to lose this game. But still, it was a heartbreaker. And now Arkansas drops to 4-2, 1-2 in conference. Ole Miss moves on to 4-1, 1-1 in conference. But the thing is when I was watching this game, we'll do some more specific breakdowns here in just a little bit and talk about some of the particular players, especially KJ Jefferson and his performance. But just looking at the game itself and the game as a whole, what I learned from this is that sometimes, in the SEC, even when you think you have a really great defense and you go up against a really good offense, sometimes that defense doesn't match up very well. Sometimes that defense can't really find an answer. And that's essentially what happened between Arkansas and Ole Miss. And both sides. Arkansas's defense had no answer. They had a strong start. They held Ole Miss to no points in the first quarter, mainly because they had the ball for so long. They did a really good job of it. But then in the second quarter, boom, explosion, 21 points for Ole Miss, and then 21 points in the fourth quarter as well. From the first quarter on, basically in the final three quarters, Arkansas's defense they faltered. There's just no other way to put it. They did not do a very good job of, protection. They did not do a very good job of getting after Matt Corral. But the most disappointing thing is that the guys that Matt Corral hit for these big plays in this game were defensive breakdowns. They were wide open guys. And that was the most frustrating thing about everything. Is you had guys that were in the backfield that were just wide open. No one around him. I feel like there's at least two or three touchdown plays at least, that had this happen. And it's I would rather a wide receiver make an incredible play or have Matt Corral make an incredible throw and get a touchdown than that. That is disgusting. You're an Arkansas team that had played such good defense for the majority of the year, and I still feel like they're a good defense. This was just one of their bad games. But I think that they just got hit out, they didn't know what to do. There was breakdowns, there's communication problems. I don't know if it was the play calling from Barry Odom that set it up this way, but it was just bad across the board. And you can't expect to win SEC games giving up 52 points. You just can't do it. But fortunately for Arkansas, but I guess unfortunately because they still lost, but fortunately, at least in this case, Ole Miss's defense was equally as bad, maybe even worse. This was just a back-and-forth classic Arkansas-Ole Miss game, which honestly, it was about to be set up perfectly as a reminder of that 2015 Arkansas Ole Miss game, the Hunter Henry heave, where if Arkansas converts that 2-point conversion, it would have been the same final score. But still, the defense was just getting trounced in this one. And you can't have that on the road against an offense like Ole Miss. Like, you just can't do it. I am not, though, and I say all that to say this, I am not discouraged. I am not sitting here and saying that, well, now everything changes for me as far as how good Arkansas is or what Arkansas is going to do the rest of the year. Like, you lost on the final play of the game. You lost on the 2-point conversion. Like, you lost then. You didn't lose because they were better. You just lost by this much. This much. There's no reason to be discouraged. You have Auburn this upcoming weekend. That's a very winnable game, a game you're favored in. You get right back on track. You got plenty of winnable games left. You're in a good spot. You're doing good. You'll be all right. It's just, unfortunately, this game went the other direction. But anybody, and I mean anybody that goes out there and says that Ole Miss is far and away better team than Arkansas, don't listen to them. Because this was just a hard-fought battle between two teams that were pretty equal when it came to talent, coaching, and all of that. So, frustrating. I get it. But no reason to hit the panic button just yet. We'll talk about some of the specifics going on, especially the 2-point conversion call here in just a little bit. But first, I got to tell you about Prize Picks. It's the leader in college sports daily fantasy, and it offers more college football props than anyone in the world and offers the star players of the Power 5 as well as the mid-majors that you may not even heard of. And the best thing about it is that for all of you that sign up today, you get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 if you use promo code LOCKEDON. Prize Picks allows mixed sports entries, and it also uses an award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. So Prize Picks is safe, offers fast withdrawals. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com and use promo code LOCKEDON, or go to the App Store and download the app today. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy made easy.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily Arkansas Razorbacks podcast.
All right, I know it's a lot of stuff to get into, and we'll probably close up the podcast today, at least in the final segment, talking about the performance, the wonderful performance by KJ Jefferson. But the thing that everyone, of course, was on everyone's mind was the decision to go for 2 at the end of the game. And, you know, I felt, and I think most logical fans felt, that if Arkansas had scored on the final possession to go for 2 to win it, you're not going to stop Ole Miss in overtime. I loved the call by Sam Pittman. He did the same thing against Missouri last year, where they ended up converting the 2-point conversion. Unfortunately, though, for Arkansas, they let Missouri kick a field goal to win it. But I love that decision. You're on the road. Your defense hasn't been able to stop anybody. They're worn out. You've been playing with fire. You got a great deal and a great call there at the very end of the game. You got the touchdown. Go for 2. I'm just so glad. And the best thing about it is Sam Pittman on the sidelines, it went over to him. He didn't hesitate. As soon as it went over to him, he had 2 fingers up, going for 2. Going for 2. And that's the right call. Because here's the thing, and this is what cracks me up about football fans sometimes, especially Razorback fans when, you know, they like to look back and question everything, which I think you can do that with a lot of different stuff. But, like, if Arkansas converts that 2-point conversion, we are talking about today one of the most incredible games that have happened all time. Like, Arkansas is awesome, and like they're 5-1, and you know, finally you beat Ole Miss in another great fashion. It was a great call. Like, everything is just going great. But because of 3 yards out on one final play, the play did not get converted. You know, everyone's just kind of like, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about the call, whatever it may be. 2-point conversion attempt was the right call. Hands down. No questions asked. 100%. The right call. The only thing, though, that if I had to criticize anything, and of course Kendall Briles and Sam Pittman, they know a lot more about this team than I do, so take it for what it is. The only thing that I would have suggested is to have KJ Jefferson, who had been magnificent all day long, have more of an option. Because it seemed like the play that they ran before was a play that they had earlier scored on. At least that's what it looked like. It didn't really put him in a position to where he had a lot of options. It was basically those 3 wide receivers that were out there as he rolled out to the right. And there wasn't anything there, so he had to essentially throw the ball away. Like, I did not like seeing that. I wish there would have been an option. I wish, because he had been so good with his legs. I would have loved to have had something to where there was more of availability to be able to use his legs, or at least the threat of it, at least to make it look like he was about to run it. A little more, maybe a play action type thing. Because Arkansas had been running the ball so effectively, I wanted to see that. I wanted to see how that may have looked. So that would be my only criticism. But even then, that's a very minor one. The call to go for 2, it was the right call. And I just felt like, especially given the circumstances of how this game is and that series has always been, I love how Sam Pittman in the press conference said afterwards too. He's like, I don't regret that. I'm going for that 2-point conversion 100% of the time, all the time. I'm going to make that call. And I like having an aggressive coach like that, because I don't feel like many previous coaches may have been that aggressive and really understood the situation and the self-awareness of the game itself. But unfortunately, Arkansas just fell short. They just fell short. And that's sometimes the way it goes. You hate it. It frustrates you. And I think that, sadly, this is going to be a game that we will look back upon at the end of the season and say, wow, okay, could have gone 10-2, maybe even 11-1 if something crazy happened. But, because of that one game right there took us out of the mix. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. But that's college football. That's where everything's at. I think Arkansas now, depending on which poll you're looking at, they drop down to the, number 18, something like that. You're still a top 25 team. You're still in great shape. You lost a game. It's okay. If you get back on the winning track against Auburn this weekend, then, hey, we're right back in it, baby. We got it going on. And then you got UAPB after that. Should be a win, then a bye week. Get everybody healthy, and then get ready for the final stretch. You're in good shape. Don't go crazy. Don't hit the panic button. Don't lose your minds. You're going to do just fine. That's the most important thing. We'll talk about the performance of KJ Jefferson here in just a second, but first, got to tell you about Built Bar. Limited time flavor, the cookie dough chunk is right here. They also have 9 delicious flavors to choose from, whether it's the coconut, the raspberry, the peanut butter brownie, salted caramel, double chocolate, does not matter. They're all incredible. There's something in it for everyone, so be sure to check out Built Bar. They have 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, so it's easy, it's convenient, it's healthy, it tastes good. There's nothing better than that. And if you go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off your first order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily Arkansas Razorbacks podcast.
All right, final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I got a lot of Ole Miss fans in my mentions over the weekend for tweeting this out, and I stand by it. I don't care if you want to say it's biased or not. But after that performance on Saturday, I would take KJ Jefferson over Matt Corral any day of the week. I would. People are obsessed with Matt Corral because of the hype. He's a good quarterback. He is. And I think that he might end up winning all SEC at the end of the day. His numbers are pretty terrific, but he's nothing like, I don't see him as being somebody that, is going to be on the level of some of the other great quarterbacks in the SEC as far as SEC history, not just this year, but for SEC history. And especially because of the fact that, Matt Corral, when in this game, the best plays he made were to wide open receivers, which, again, I'm not taking anything away from his performance. He was pretty phenomenal. But he had a lot of easy plays to make. He only threw the ball 21 times, completed 14 passes for 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and also rushed in 2 more. So, he was fine, and he was good, and all of that. But if I'm looking at just the performances themselves, as far as clutch plays, all of that, give me KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson went 25 of 35 for 326 yards and 3 touchdowns. Did have an interception, but that interception was at the end of the half on a Hail Mary. I don't even count. Not to mention the fact that he also rushed for 3 touchdowns on 85 yards on 20 carries. So he had 6 total touchdowns in this game. He did. KJ Jefferson, 6 touchdowns. And if you add in his offensive numbers and combine them together, you're talking about over 400 yards offense alone just from KJ Jefferson. Give me that quarterback. Because here's the thing, too. He made throws to guys that were covered. He made throws to guys that were, I'm not saying he was perfect because he did have some missed ones, but he threw some passes to some guys in a very clutch situation. He made the game-winning drive, essentially, or at least the clutch drive at the end of the game that drove him down the field and made the touchdown pass with 1 second left on the clock. Got it. The guy was incredible. And going back into his home state and Sardis, where he's from, just being a few miles down the road and his whole family being there, that was awesome. That was incredible. And I've always been a KJ Jefferson fan, but seeing the plays that he was making against Ole Miss, he's a dude. He's an absolute dude. His arm, his legs, his strength, his size, his ability, he's incredible. And if you told me right now that you have a choice between KJ Jefferson or Matt Corral, I'm taking KJ Jefferson twice on Sunday. Every time. Every time. To me, KJ Jefferson is a more talented quarterback than Matt Corral. Just being honest about it. KJ Jefferson's not perfect. He still has plenty of improvement. But when it comes to being a gamer, when it comes to being a guy making plays with his legs and his arm, he's the guy I want. He's the guy I want. Good for Matt Corral to get a win. And I know that everyone loves Matt Corral because he was preseason All-SEC, first team and all that. Like, everyone loves his hype and it's going to surround it. But on Saturday, he was not the better quarterback. The best quarterback in the SEC on Saturday was KJ Jefferson. And I think we're going to continue to see KJ Jefferson improve more and more and more. I look forward to seeing him against Auburn this weekend. That's going to be an incredible game, an incredible matchup. But I want to say that, you have a quarterback now that's a gamer. You haven't had a quarterback that's been a gamer in a long time. And when you have the ball in his hands at the end of the game or no matter what, I love Arkansas's chances no matter what it is. So give me KJ Jefferson all day long. That's my quarterback, as so many people put out a gif off after the performance. Great quarterback. I love him. He's awesome. And I can't wait to see him continue to improve and continue to get better. Tough loss. But you don't have to worry about the quarterback situation with Arkansas right now. They got themselves a gamer in KJ Jefferson. Appreciate everybody listening into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily Arkansas Razorbacks podcast.